on the north coast of Cornwall today on the new Sib. Just come out from the harbour there behind us. Nice easy ride out this morning. Quite a low tide, but no problem in something like a Sib. So I'm going to head out to some reef straight away and work that with some lures. This is every bass angler's dream. Birds going nuts and being right on top of it. There's nothing worse than seeing the birds going nuts and not being able to fish where they are, but when you can get right on top of it, you know you're in for a good time. This is a better fish actually, just for demonstration purposes, but yeah, nice bass. Woo! Nice bass. This is, and when I say this is what every bass fisherman dreams of, I mean, it really is like being in a dream. It's just so stunning when it's like this, you know, when you got the calm conditions and just nature going wild. It is, yeah, it's what you get excited about. It's what keeps you up the night before a fishing session, and then you go and find absolute beasts like this. There we go, that's a good fish. That's a very solid fish right there. This is like a 4-pound fish, maybe even a little bit more. Ah, just fantastic, isn't it? When you just know the fish are going to be hitting it, and then you get a nice one like this. Yeah, that's a good fish for here. It's about 55 centimeters. So yeah, just brilliant fishing, and it engulfed the big crazy paddle tail. So yeah, there we go. If you're getting a lot of smaller fish, put some a bit bigger on and find the big girls. Not even sinking it much really, just working it sort of a couple meters down. We're in 15 meters here at the moment, and the drift is honestly perfect. Got a bit of tide pushing us sort of through the reef, and then the wind is sort of pushing us along it, so just covering, you know, like the best amount of ground possible. There we go. How's that for a pollock? Thought it was all bass here, but no, look at that. That's a nice big fat one. Lovely colours on it. Smash that lure. All right, well, there's plenty of birds here. That's a good sign. Big paddle tail right in the middle, why not? We're right on the edge of the reef here. Interestingly, when the birds have been coming up on the feed, it's not been over the sort of main bulk shallow part of the reef. It's been on the edges where it goes from clean ground onto the rough. So that's an interesting observation. Often I see them feeding right over the top of the reef, but we're pretty much near slack tide now though. There's not a lot of movement in the water anymore, and the wind's dropped off. There's still a little bit of swell, but there's like no wind, so it's a really nice morning to be out doing this sort of fishing. But with the tide going, and I expect things will just slow down a bit on the lure front, I think I'm going to switch over to some toping in a bit and have a go at that, just to sort of mix up the day a bit really, because I've already had pretty good success on the bass fishing. It'd be nice to get a decent run on some taupe. But yeah, look at that. See the sounder there, and it's just fully alive, full of fish. It's so good to see it like this. Yeah, there we go. You know it's not going to take long. Oh, that's a big lump of swell there. Not a bad fish, this guy's got a fair bit of weight to it. Not a bad fish at all. Coming up on the surface now. It should start splashing. It is just glorious. Look at that fish. So clear the water as well. I mean, there has been some pretty bad algal blooms going on up and down the coast recently, but up here on the north coast, it's crystal at the moment. That's a nice chunky bass. This is what I like to do. I like to just try and grab them like that with my thumb lodged in the sort of lower jaw lip bit there, and then the rest of my hand pinching up underneath its gill plate, because it's the best way for me and the fish then, because there's no sharp bits there and I can really clamp down on it. Look at that. That is just a gorgeous fish. That is the sort of stamp that I'm happy to catch over and over again. Phenomenal. Phenomenal fishing. Just been constant since I come out a bit further from the land. It's just been a steady flow, and I mean, look at that. That is just thick with fish. They're just everywhere at the moment on this bit of reef. For the last few times I fished out here, there's been fish, but not in these numbers, and also the average size does seem to be slightly better right now. Yeah, in again. And there's a big seal. He's coming for my fish. Look, he's getting in on the action. I mean, he cannot be hungry right now. He must be full with the amount of food that's around him. I really hope he doesn't go for this bass, because I just don't want the seal to eat it. There he is. Oy! There's like 5. Oh no, there's more. There's so many fish following this bass. Wow. I was going to say, oh, there's like 5 bass following this, and then there's sort of like 100 behind it. Oh, look at that rod go. And they were all this sort of size just then. Did the pleasure of unhooking himself. What a gent. Well, the birds are still going crazy on the surface behind me here, but the tide has completely slacked off. And well, it's left me with some really nice flat calm conditions. And whilst I could still put time into targeting the bass on lure, I'm going to change my focus now onto the tope with bait, just because whilst the tide's fairly slow and it's so nice and calm, for me these are the perfect conditions to be fishing for tope in a sib. I don't like fishing for tope on the drift when there's a lot of tide flow or when there's a lot of wind blowing. I like it flat calm. It just makes everything a lot more manageable for me. So I'm going to head out beyond the reef now and try and find some bait with sabikis, ideally some mackerel. Now there's a few different baits that you can use for tope fishing, but for me here in Cornwall, undoubtedly the best is fresh mackerel. I don't even really bother with frozen mackerel. I just don't like using it as bait in general. But a tope cannot resist a fresh mackerel drifted along the bottom. There's just something about it. I mean, I like to cut mine up a bit, but you can use them live. All right, so we've come out to do some fishing for tope now with bait on the drift. And there's quite a specific way I like to fish for them. I like to come a fair ways offshore. I mean, not to say that you can't catch them inshore, but I like at least 30 meters of depth for tope fishing. And I like to come well away from all of the reef so that when I'm on one long drift, I'm not going to run into any reef, because it's really annoying getting your tope rigs snagged up. And yeah, you will probably get better and more fish fishing really close to the reef when it comes to tope, but I like personally to fish the clean ground, just because when you're on a tope you tend to drift a bit quicker than other boats, and therefore you just get pulled into the snags a lot more. So I've come out a fair bit, and I'm using quite a light setup here that I use for everything really, but I'm not lure fishing. That's a 6 to 12 pound ugly stick and a 5,500 spinning reel. I think this has got 60 pound braid, so at 60 pound that's enough to pull the boat. So even if I max up on my drag, basically I'm going to be holding on and the fish is just going to be pulling me until it tires itself out. And a while back, you know, a couple of years ago, if I went tope fishing, I would have always used a wire trace, but I'm going to try and use 80 pound mono today, just because it's easier to work with, and I want to see how I get on with it. I'm not really catching any monster sharks out here, so I'm hoping that 80 pound is going to be enough to stop them from biting through. That's to a 8/0 circle, and then the magic part is the bait here. So this is a mackerel with like half of the spine removed, and it creates a really nice sort of flapping bait. And I've actually already broke the neck on this one earlier when I caught it. That's why it's a bit bent. But then I just put the circle hook up through the nose there, so it's sitting nice and proud. That's quite a big bait, really. But yeah, you know, it will work, I'm sure. But I've got about 4 foot of that trace, and then just down to a 6-ounce weight, because we're hardly moving at all here. I don't really need to go over the top of my weights. I mean, an 8 might be needed later on, but I have got 10s as well. In 30 meters of water, it's sort of just a bit, you never really know. It depends how fast the tide's moving. But I want to do one really long drift all the way along this stretch of coast. I mean, I'm not going to get that far, but what I don't want to do is I don't want to keep setting up drifts, stopping and starting, stopping and starting. I just want that scent trail. I want my baits trailing all on one drift, so that all that scent that's getting put out from that mackerel is just following behind the boat, and hopefully it will bring a couple of tope to me. But it's just a theory. I don't do much tope fishing, but I do enjoy it every now and then, because they are a really hard fighting fish. And when it's like this, when it's really still, it's a nice way to fish on the drift for them. And the reefs tend to sort of die off a bit when the tide's gone. So yeah, we'll do this for a couple of hours, and hopefully I'll come back to you with a nice bite on the rod. A dogfish has taken a hold of my of my bait, and he's not even hooked, but you can see the hook there. He's just being greedy, and he's swallowed the mackerel whole. And yeah, he's put so much in his mouth, I don't think he can let go of it. That's quite funny though, isn't it? So let's see if I can just shake him off. Oh no, he took my mackerel. Damn it. Well, good for him. He's got a whole mackerel there, but it's stuck in his mouth, so I don't know how comfortable that's going to be. But whenever I'm drifting for tope, I always like to put a little sabiki rig out with a little bit of the mackerel that I'm using, just to pick up the odd bonus species like this here. This is a red gurnard, and it's a fish that I wouldn't really come across much at all normally, but when I'm out here bait fishing, it's one of the few times that I get to see them, and they're stunning fish. The red gurnard particularly are good eating, and if this one was just a little bit bigger, probably I'd be keeping him, but it's such a beautiful fish. I'm going to put this one back, but yeah, it's always worth doing. I like to have one rod for the tope, and then one rod for sort of mini species like this red gurnard. Well, we really have drifted quite a long way here, probably about 1.5 miles, 2 miles, and no tope. I've had a couple of fairly big bites on the whole mackerel bait that could have been tope, but no hookups. Plenty of dogfish and loads of red gurnard actually. If you want to get some red gurnard, get yourself down here to North Cornwall with some small mackerel baits, and some of them were a reasonable size actually. I also had scad, mackerel and launce, so what's that, 5 species, not too bad, but not the one that I wanted. That's just the way it is with fishing sometimes, isn't it? So it's freshening up a little bit now, the tide's picked up and the wind is starting to pick up from the north, and I'm going to head back over to the reef and do a bit more lure fishing, just to see if anything is happening on the flood that was different to the ebb earlier. Maybe there's a couple bigger fish knocking around if I'm being hopeful. So yeah, gonna run over there now and get on with some lures. The birds, the bait, the bass, it's all come to me. It's just drifting here, and all of a sudden it's just erupted around me. There's so many birds, and I can see what it is. It's sand eel getting pushed up. I mean, I sort of had a feeling it was sand eel anyway, because that's what we get a lot of here in Cornwall this time of year. But yeah, it's just sand eel getting pushed up, and the bass are just feeding really hard on them at the moment. That was a bite then. There doesn't actually seem to be an insane amount of sand eel like I have seen earlier in the year. I've just seen it thick with sand eel. There seems to be a modest amount, but the bass are just really pressuring them, and obviously they want to have a good feed. So tempted to chuck on a surface lure right now, but the soft plastics have just been nailing them today. I mean, they do seem to be feeding a little bit deeper down. They're not necessarily right up on the surface. The birds are just getting in on the action because the bass are pushing stuff up from beneath. Because when I look on the sounder, I can see a lot of fish marking down there near the bottom. So I let a bit of line out, let it sink a bit, and then we'll start retrieving. Yeah, there we go. Not a bad fish. Look at it, yes. Yes, this could be a 60, I'm not sure. It's just not fighting like one yet. It's just being lazy. It's a pretty long fish, that. He's just cruising up on the surface. There we go. Oh. It's such power. It's just moving the boat like it's nothing. That's the sort of runs I was expecting from a fish that size. Yeah. In the deeper water here on a bigger fish. It's just funny how it works like that. I mean, I don't want to say it's a 60, but it's got to be getting up close. Oh, that's a solid bass right there. And I'm not going to net him. I'm just going to try and lip him, because I'm pretty sure he's not quite 60. But oh, what a chunk. Yeah, that's a good fish right there, guys. Not a 60, but look, he's well into the 50s, probably a 55 centimeter fish, I'm going to say. So that's a really nice big chunky fish, going down to the smaller size crazy paddle tails here in some deeper water. It's just brilliant. All right, we're back where we started after what has been a fantastic day's fishing on the north coast of Cornwall, and it really did feel like summer today. It's kind of one of the few times that I've managed to say that so far this year, which is bonkers because we're in mid-June. But everything was just alive. You know, there was a load of bait fish around. and the predators were just going crazy. It didn't matter if I was fishing with bait or lure, I was just getting constant bites. It was so much fun. I can't wait for more of it. The new Maelstrom products 3.8 alley deck has performed very well today. No complaints at all. Very comfortable day's fishing had by me, and I managed to get quite a lot of distance covered. But yeah, I mean, what a great day I've had fishing. Hopefully you found it interesting. I tried to mix it up a bit this time with a bit of tote fishing. Didn't quite go to plan, but I had the right intentions. If there's anything else you'd like to see me do and have a go at whilst I'm out on the water, just let me know in the comments. And if you can leave a like, and if you haven't already subscribed, please do. I massively appreciate it. It goes a lot towards my motivation for making more videos. But yeah, I'm gonna go in now, wash this really dirty sit down. Now I remember why I don't use bait on the sibs. It's just a nightmare to clear up. And then I think a nice cold beer. All right, cheers.